Dreams are something we all experience in one form or another, ranging from the surreal to the existential, and sometimes they can be rather telling to what a person is feeling. For the Doctor, despite his alien nature, dreams were something not uncommon to him, but something that would often stick with him, and this occasion was to be no different. He found himself sat down on the hill of a meadow covered in all kinds of flowers, roses, lilies, daffodils and the like, as well as flowers that were not native to Earth. His favourite being the It was truly peaceful, and could even rival the Eye of Orion with how tranquil it was. The cool wind flowed around him, helping keep his long blonde hair out of his face. He couldn't help but notice the air had a slight scent of cherry. He wasn't complaining though. He liked cherries. He soon discovered he wasn't alone though. Across the large meadow were all his past incarnations, talking, relaxing, and, for a lack of a better term, enjoying their retirement. His other selves were always with him, and that was kind of a comforting thought to him. He considered going down there to talk to them. They may be in his head, but a catch-up is always nice. And despite his rather pompous seeming attitude at times, he did consider himself a rather social incarnation. He prepared himself to get up, but after a moment, the Doctor paused. Instead of going to meet the others, he just sat there, observing them. He guessed waiting a little longer and maybe spending a bit of extra time observing wouldn't hurt. Would it? While the different incarnations would go and interact with one another, all the different Doctors had their own little section. He could remember seeing his 8th incarnation reading a copy of The Time Machine by H.G. Wells as he was leaning against a stone wall surrounded by a bunch of forget-me-nots. Quite, an appropriate choice of flower given that incarnation. He really did like being him. He knew things weren't always easy for that incarnation, but he was a great incarnation to be. Especially in those early days. Running around with Mary, Shelley, going on all the adventures with Charlie Pollard. So many great days. His war incarnation was over by his 3rd incarnation. They seemed to be having a fun conversation. He couldn't exactly make out what though. He knew it was in his head, but it was nice to see Captain Grumpy being treated as part of the gang. Is that a word to describe it? The Doctor laughed for a moment, realising his 13th incarnation would have said fam. But that didn't fit well with him. But she was another fun incarnation to be. She was over with the 11th incarnation. He always thought those two would get along. The 2nd and 7th incarnations were playing the recorder and the spoons respectively. He always wondered if he could get a few of his other selves together and make a band. Down one of the hills was one of his more recent selves. A hunched-over man with a pair of glasses and a large nose, wearing a baggy black coat and a pair of fingerless gloves. The Doctor often thought about maybe adopting that fingerless glove look, but didn't think it went with the upper-class persona he was trying to get across. After admiring all his other selves, he just sat there for a while, looking at all those brilliant, fantastic and mad doctors. It was almost like a sports player looking at their highlight reel. But looking at those men, women, others who came before him, all Blondie could think was, I don't belong here. Why did he pause? Why couldn't he bring himself to go see his other selves? Truth be told, after a few recent events, he was starting to think, as doctors go, maybe I should just be forgotten. I made some mistakes. Mistakes I doubt the others would have made. Or at least not as bad as I made them. That phrase, the phrase he was famous for, the phrase that was always going through his mind, that he would always say, "Oh, I'm the Doctor, and I'm here to help." Always. Yes, I may try, but it doesn't mean I always succeed. Charlie, his best friend, she would always look at him like he can always save the day. And for a while, she actually started to make the Doctor believe it. All the thoughts going through his mind, he knew he couldn't tell her this, because he knew it would worry her. Heck, it worried him, to be honest. Quite often he had the thought of just triggering his own regeneration. This thought had crossed his mind quite a few times. He would always think, I'm sure who comes next would do a far better job than I would. Than I have. Who needs some blonde idiot running around with a stupid pair of glasses on anyway? The thought was there, but he knew he wouldn't do it. There was a few reasons. He didn't know how Charlie could possibly react to a new version of him. And he didn't want to. No, he couldn't put her through that. He also felt that'd be disrespecting to his past and to his future. Why make some other Doctor pick up his mess just because he couldn't cope? And in his mind, it was also spitting in the face of all the work his past selves had done. When things got hard, they kept on fighting, and they wouldn't give up. He knew no matter how he felt, no matter how much he detested it, he was in this body for the long run. He found over the years that, despite trying to deny it, despite trying to hide it with a sense of bravado and class and, for lack of a better word, arrogance, he was rather emotional at times. He didn't particularly consider it a bad thing, at least it meant he wasn't a Cyberman, but it would make the good times he feel absolutely amazing. But it was a double-edged sword, you see. it would make the lower moments, the sadder moments, hit so much harder. He got up and finally started to walk, but not towards his past incarnations, but instead away from them. He didn't know when the dream would end, so he thought he may as well just enjoy what the place had to offer. Little did he realise though, at the bottom of one of the hills, 2 incarnations were watching him. One in a rather fetching cardigan, and the other in a battered old leather jacket. The 2 were clearly looking at the blonde doctor walk away, clearly talking about it to one another. No matter how it made him feel right now, the doctor had to be honest. This place was beautiful. As he walked across the grass, he started to see less and less flowers, until there were none to be seen. He looked forward, and in front of him was a large and wide wall with an iron gate in the middle. Being the doctor, his curiosity was piqued, and he approached the gate to try and look through the bars. But all he could see on the other side of them was a thick fog shrouding the area. "No, trust me. You won't find anything through the gate," a familiar voice cried out. The doctor turned around a little startled, as he didn't expect someone to be there. The startled look soon changed to a smile, as standing there was, well, him, the doctor, his war incarnation. "Well, I will say it's nice to know that my sense of curiosity hasn't left me in my older years," the older-looking man said with a smile as he stroked his beard. The blonde doctor was happy and slowly reapproached his older-looking self. "Well, it's lovely to see you here, but you're rather far from the others, aren't you? Why are you here?" "Well, I could ask you the same thing now, couldn't I?" He did have a point. The war doctor looked over his future self. "So you're the latest model, hmm? I must say your dress sense seems to be a bit of an improvement over some of the others. Although I must admit the northern chap in the cardigan wasn't so bad. In fact, I'd quite say as dress sense go, he might be my favourite. Though looking at you, I have to say, isn't the hair a bit much?" "Oh, excuse me, Grandad, but I do remember how your hair was in your early days." The 2 paused and just smiled at one another. You see, the doctor remembers being his war incarnation, and all he went through, and how he used to view him. So seeing him so happy and talkative was a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one. The war doctor walked past his future self towards the iron gate. "So you seemed rather taken by this?" "Well, yes. What are they?" The war doctor turned around, facing his future self, and simply said, "Days yet to come." The blonde doctor was confused. "My dear chap, could you maybe elaborate?" "These are the sections for the versions of you yet to come. We all have a place here, but theirs are simply not ready yet." "So the fact I came across it, does that mean I don't have long, before I change?" You see, I keep having flashes in my mind, almost like I'm looking at my own grave, and I hear voices I don't recognize, and I can't tell if what I'm seeing are events that have happened to me but I can't remember, or I'm getting visions of my future and hearing the voices of who I'm meant to be, will be, could be, I don't know. The war doctor beckoned the blonde one over to him. "Tell me,
Can you see anything when you look through those bars?
The blonde doctor took another look through the bars of the gate. And still nothing. Only a thick fog. No, nothing. Just fog, far as the eye can see. Does that mean anything? The war doctor smiled, putting his hand on his future incarnation's shoulder.
And I think you have a good while left, my friend.
The smile on the war doctor's face faded to a look of confusion, concern even, as the blonde doctor couldn't even look him in the eye after that.
You seem less than pleased.
Me? Oh, no, it's great news. I don't have to worry about someone changing the TARDIS. I finally got the way I like it. Besides, someone has to look after this scarf, don't they? Don't trust any other incarnation now, do I? The war doctor sat on the grass and gestured for the other one to sit next to him. The two of them overlooked the green, empty field before them. The blonde doctor pulled out a paper bag from his coat pocket, and reaching out towards his younger self. Not in looks, of course. The blonde doctor did chuckle at the idea that he was the more youthful one. Fancy a toffee?
Ah, don't mind if I do.
It wasn't jelly babies, but it would do.
I know exactly how you feel, you know.
The blonde doctor looked puzzled.
That feeling of wanting to move on. Let yourself be forgotten. Let everything you are burn away into ash and just be blown along the wind.
Ah, yes. That. The blonde doctor did look a bit embarrassed, but then again, this was in his mind. So I guess part of him wanted someone to talk to.
So, care to tell me what happened?
I got cocky. I got arrogant. I let a lot of people down. And it wasn't just a mistake I could say sorry for.
I see.
The old man said with sympathy in his voice. I just thought, oh, don't worry, I'm the doctor. I can save the day. But no. Not this time. And because of me, my arrogance, a whole race is dead. The war doctor reached out to his younger-looking self.
We all make mistakes.
The blonde doctor quickly stood up, moving away from his past self. Don't you dare. You make it sound like I accidentally ate Charlie's lunch by mistake. Or I lost some of my homework at the academy and Barusa was upset. My mistakes cost lives, an entire race gone because I was an idiot. Again, in that moment, the voices were ringing in the doctor's head again. End it, end it, end it. You're not the doctor, you're not the doctor, you are never worthy of being the doctor. Just know, he didn't deserve it. He did not deserve that title. He did not deserve to exist when there are so many better incarnations, so many possible outcomes that could have been a lot better than him. And then it happened. He started to look at his hands, the golden glow forming around it. The ever slight sound of regeneration, the light of possibilities. This was it. Let it happen. Let go. Let go. Everything was screaming at him to let go. He turned back to his war incarnation for a second. I have to sit here and know that some incarnation died, knowing that I was their future. I have to know that some incarnation in the future is going to look at me and have to pick up my mistakes. I am worthless. Don't you understand? I am worthless. I am a fool. No one needs me. Charlie would be better off without me. The whole universe would be better off without me. I keep making mistakes. Don't you see? No one needs me. And even if they think they do, they're wrong, they're mistaken, they put all their faith into me when I don't deserve it. I am nothing. I never will be anything. Calling myself the Doctor is a cruel joke because I never, ever deserve to be the Doctor. Nobody needs me. So why shouldn't I let go in this moment? Start afresh, or heck, no, even better, why don't I just cut it off here for now? No other incarnations, because no one has to know that they were born from me. But the light faded. His hands looked normal again. Because one word ran through his mind. Charlie. For a brief moment, he clutched his scarf. I can't do that to her. But I know. But I know she'd be so much better off without me. It hurts. It hurts so much. I don't know if I can keep doing this anymore. I just don't. But I know I need to stay strong for her.
Doctor.
Every time I have to look at this mess of an incarnation, I see a fool, an idiot, a failure, a freak. Everything that is wrong with being the Doctor, I see.
A monster?
The War Doctor butted in. This interruption seemed to snap the blonde Doctor out of his rant. The War Doctor stood back up to meet his future incarnation, clearing off the grass from his battered leather jacket as he did so.
I think I understand better than most that feeling. Don't forget, for a long time I was buried away. Forgotten for some time. The things I have done, well, you were there. But that all changed in one moment. Suddenly I was accepted. I was the Doctor again.
Despite the sadness he was feeling, the blonde Doctor couldn't help but give out a slight smile. The old grump really did go through a lot, so he deserved some joy, even if it was just in his head.
Oh, I know what happened. I saw the whole thing through your eyes. I never really went away. None of us did. We never will.
So you all saw how I failed then? Blondie asked.
I saw how you tried.
This took the blonde Doctor by surprise, but it was something he needed to hear.
It was the Daleks that caused that planet's destruction. You couldn't have predicted their plan. Now could you? At the end of the day, you tried. And it may not bring those people back, and it will never leave you. But don't you dare, sir, don't you dare act like you're as bad as those monsters. Not even for a second.
The two Doctors suddenly found the field had moved around them and had taken them to a hill, looking over all the past incarnations. The War Doctor looked over to them and smiled. He couldn't help but see the northern chap in the cardigan looking up at them, seemingly giving a smile back. The blonde Doctor did for a moment think, did they have something to do with this?
All of us. All the men, the women, the others that have come before you have made mistakes. Big ones, small ones, and ones that will stick with us no matter what. And I'm sure future versions will as well. But at the end of the day, you are no less of a Doctor for the mistakes you make. because you learn from what went wrong, and you try. You always try to help.
The war doctor looked at his future self with pride. The blonde doctor simply hugged his past self. Now, he could be a bit of a hugger when he felt like it. This was one of those times. Thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor.
No need to thank me. This is in your head after all. Well, when you wake up, do one thing for me, please. Keep being the doctor. And never give up. Never give in.
The blonde doctor simply smiled and nodded at his past self. And like that, the dream faded. All the past incarnations were gone. And the feel of the grass and the smell of the cherries in the air, all gone. The dream really had ended. The doctor awoke to find himself sat down on a chair in the console room, the orange glow of the time rotor lighting up the rest of the room. The issue with dreams is they fade from your memory very quickly. And as for the doctor, well, the doctor was no exception to this rule. The garden, the gates, and his interaction with the war doctor, they were all fading away. But something was different. The doctor found a sense of optimism towards himself, something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. He didn't know if it would last. In fact, he was almost 100% sure it wouldn't. But for now, it was a nice feeling. He got up from the chair and approached the console, stroking the controls before reaching for the lever. The TARDIS made a few beeps like she was happy. The doctor just looked at the time rotor and softly said, "I'm the doctor. And I help people." He pulled down the lever and got ready for days yet to come.